Hello friends, welcome back. I'm Miss Alicia and today we're going to keep learning about the elements of art. Last time we learned about line, shape, and color. This time we're going to move on to two new elements called form and value. Let's start with form. A form is an object that is three-dimensional or 3D and can be measured for length and width, just like shape, but also for its height. Forms can be geometric with straight edges and organic with curved edges. This is a form because it's 3D and we can measure it for length, width, and its height. This one isn't a form and really it's just a shape because we can only measure it for its length and width and it's kind of flat, it's not 3D. Let's move on to value. If you watched the last lesson, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, we already learned about value. And you're right. Last time we learned how value is a part of color and how light or dark a color is. Outside of color though, value is how light or dark anything is on a scale from white to black. Values are really important to form too, because artists will use different levels of value, like shadows which are dark and highlights which are light, to make objects in their art look more 3D. Let's practice now that we know more about these elements. Today we'll need paper, a pencil and eraser, colored pencils, and a ruler. Let's practice form first. We're going to learn how to draw a few different 3D objects step by step. Let's begin with a cube. I'm going to do mine in marker, but make sure to do yours in pencil, because we might do some erasing. Alright, so first we're going to start with just a basic square. Once you've got your square on your paper, we're going to do a second square, but it's going to overlap a little bit. So I like to just move my square up and over some, and I'm going to do my square right here. Alright, now we've got two overlapping squares. We need to connect them now. So what we're going to do is find our first corner, and we're going to connect them kind of like how I did here. So I'm going to find my corner, and I'm going to find the same corner on the other square. They should be pretty close. So here's the matching corners, and I'm going to draw a line between those. We're going to do the same thing to all the other corners. So again, I'm going to go over here, find my corner, find the matching corner, and draw a line between them. And we'll do that same thing for the last two. The last step is a little bit optional. Right now we can see that we have kind of a clear looking cube. We can see through it to the other side and see all these lines in the inside. I like to do my forms solid most of the time, so I will erase these inside lines. Like I said, I did mine in marker, but this is where you'll take your eraser and you're going to erase any lines that you wouldn't see from the front of your cube. So that's these back three. And once you're done with that, you've got a cube. Next we're going to do a cone. So just like we did with cube, for cone we're going to start with a basic shape, an oval. So I'm going to do my oval. Your oval can be thin or wide, totally up to you. Once we've got our oval, now we're going to find the center of our oval. You can use your ruler to do that, or you can just kind of guess. I'm going to say mine's right here. And from that center point, we're going to make a dashed line straight up. It doesn't have to go super far, but we're going to make it up a little bit to find where the point of our cone will go. I think that's high enough. From that point is when we're going to make these two lines now. So kind of like you're going to start a triangle, you're going to make lines straight down, kind of diagonal, till they meet the widest point of your oval. So I'm going to start at the top here and work my way down till I find that edge. And same thing on the other side. Perfect. So just like we did up here, now we have some lines that we could erase because right now our cone's looking like a clear cone. So if you want to do that and make a solid cone, you're gonna erase this top half of the oval because that's the side of the cone that we're not seeing from this front area. So we're gonna erase that. And then we're also gonna go ahead and erase this dash line because that's not actually a line in the cone. That's just what we used to made to find our point up here. And then you have a cone. Next, let's make a pyramid. A pyramid's pretty easy. We're just gonna start with a regular old straight line right down our paper. From our straight line, we're gonna use it to make 2 triangles on either side of the line. So I'm gonna start on this side. Our triangle is gonna be a little bit diagonal, kind of lopsided. So we're gonna make our first line not flat to the ground, but at an angle. And then we see I have 2 sides of a triangle now. So right here, I just need to connect those 2 sides to fill in my triangle completely. Perfect, so I have one. Now we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. And I like to make my triangles kind of even, but they don't have to be even. You can make them one bigger, one a little smaller. You can make them both really big, up to you. And you'll see this time, we have our complete pyramid. We don't need to erase anything because we didn't make our pyramid so that we can see through it. We just went ahead and made a solid pyramid. We're gonna move on to sphere now, but you're gonna see pretty quickly we run into a little bit of a problem. So our first step is just to draw a circle. And then from there, that's kind of our only step. But you'll see, it still just looks like a circle. So next we're gonna move on to value really quick to learn how to make our sphere look like a sphere. And then we'll come back and work on it. All right, we're gonna try value now. And to do that, we're gonna make something called a value scale. So first thing we wanna do is either trace our ruler or draw a long rectangle at the top of our page. And then you can divide it up into 5 or 6 equal pieces. I think I did mine into 6. So once you've got that on your paper, how a value scale works is that we're gonna draw a color in these boxes so that they go from dark to light. So this one will be almost black, this one will be a little lighter, till we get to all the way white. I actually like to work from the light side to the dark side, so let's try that. So if this one is white, we're actually gonna start on our second one and get a little darker there. So here's our lightest. Now we're gonna get a little bit darker. And you may not be able to see this box very well, but that's fine because then we know that it's barely lighter than white. So now on the next box, we're just gonna go a little bit darker than this one now. And we're gonna keep going all the way across till we get to our darkest value. And sometimes you may need to go back over a box once or twice so that you can make sure it's definitely darker than the last one. And now that I'm at my last box, I'm gonna make that one as dark as possible so that it can definitely go from light to dark. And like I said before, this one I'm probably gonna go up over a couple times just so I can make sure that it's definitely darker than this one, because that one's already pretty dark. All right, and then we have a value scale. There's also different ways of making value. I did mine kind of solid here, but there's also something called hatching, which is just making lines across your paper. So if I wanted to make a light value with hatching, I'm gonna put my lines farther apart so that more of the white is peeking through. Similarly, if I wanted to make them darker, I'm gonna put my lines really close together so that less of the white is peeking through. Cross hatching is kind of like hatching, but with two different lines crossing instead of just one. So just the same way, if I'm gonna make a light value with cross hatching, my lines are gonna be farther apart. If it's gonna be dark, they're gonna be pretty close together. The last one is called stippling. It's my favorite, just because it is a little smoother looking. But what it consists of is making little tiny dots all over the area that you're trying to make value on until you get the color that you want. The same way we did over here by putting all the lines farther apart. For stippling, your dots are going to be farther apart if you want them lighter, and they're going to be a lot closer together if you're going to make a dark value. Now that we've learned form and value separately, let's put them together and finish up our sphere. So I'm going to hatch mine, but feel free to use whichever value method we learned before you'd like. So first thing we're going to do to work on our sphere is find a point, pick any point on the sphere where the light hits it. So I'm going to pick this point right here, and then from there, every point farthest from that, or every space farthest from that, is going to be dark. So think about it like making little tiny value scales all over your sphere. This is going to be your white block, and everything far from that is going to be your dark block. So let's start. I'm going to go ahead and put my dark values all over the edges. I may need to go back in and make those a little darker, but for now we're going to move on to the next one. So if this was my dark value, remember back to our value scale, the next one needs to be a little bit lighter. There we go. And remember, this is the point that I chose for my light spot. So on this side right here, our value scale is going to be pretty small. So it's going to go from dark to light really fast, whereas on this side, it might go from dark to light a little slower. So we're going to keep going, filling in these spots until we've covered everything but that white spot. Here I am, I'm going to go back in and get those dark values darker. And mine's not super good right now because I've been kind of rushing through it. They take a long time, but once you're complete, it should look a little bit like this, where I have my dark values all around the edges, and it gets lighter till I get to that light spot. That's it for this lesson. Be sure to send us pictures of your hard work to either our Instagram or Facebook page for a chance to be featured on one of our TCMU channels. And be sure to come visit us at Open Art Studios on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9:30 to 12, and Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday from 1 to 4. See you next time!